The cinema, motion pictures, movies. They invoke more passion than any other art form and have an incredible impact on society. But why is that? Join me, Zack Martino, as I talk with experts and die-hard fans about how special movies are. Welcome to Cinema Chat.
Alright, so yes, I'm the host, Zack Martino, and I'm here with my first guest, first episode, Brandon Wenzel.
How are you?
So this episode, it's going to be all about comic book movies.
Okay.
Which is all the rage now. That's all you see in theaters and trailers for. So I brought you in because I consider you the foremost expert of this genre out of anybody I know.
Okay.
And unlike many people I know, you've actually read comics before the movies.
Mm-hmm.
So, how did you get into comics in general? If you can remember that.
I pretty much remember being into comics for almost my whole life. It goes back to various different forms of comic books. So playing the video games when I was younger on the PlayStation, then there was Genesis and stuff like that. Picking up just random comics. I don't remember reading arcs, what the comic book arcs, there's different stories for a certain amount of issues. But I was always really fond of Spider-Man, so I usually found a very big liking to him and his cartoons, and then there was X-Men and all these other really cool things. And so I don't remember exactly when it started, my whole love for comic book things. It's just always kind of been there. So.
All right. And so do you remember the first comic book movie you saw, or any of the earliest stuff that you can remember and have memories of?
Yeah, I remember it honestly very vividly. It was seeing Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire. I saw it at the Abbey Cinema in West Melford back in 2000, 2001, whenever that movie came out. And I remember seeing specific scenes, sitting in the theater, of course, and then I remember seeing it, and I was blown away, of course, at the end of that movie with the Goblin and all that other stuff. It's so cool, and to this day, that is still one of my favorite superhero movies, just because of the nostalgia. But I just think there's something so special about that movie that I think a lot of people overlook now, because X-Men and Spider-Man were pretty much the first really big superhero movies that I remember. There was the Batman movies, there was all that other stuff, but I remember seeing X-Men and Spider-Man, of course, and being wow, here are Marvel characters, and then their big jump to the big screen. So it was really cool.
Yeah, those were probably the first real modern superhero
Mm-hmm.
movies, because you had, obviously, like you said, the Tim Burton, Joel Schumacher Batmans.
Mm-hmm.
You had the old Christopher Reeve Superman. But then, once the 2000s came around, that real, the modern formula really started with those, the early X-Men and the Spider-Man movies. Yeah, those are always, those still, for the most part, hold up compared to what's coming out now. For the most part. Yeah, I mean, there's some stuff in there, and it's and it's really funny to hear about how they almost had Hugh Jackman show up in Spider-Man.
Yeah,
there's stuff like that. So nowadays that's commonplace, but can you imagine in 2002, two different companies, and he just kind of walks in? You would never see anything like that now.
No,
because of the companies.
Mm-hmm.
But a crossover is such a common thing. But back then, with two different companies, what do you think the reaction to that could have even been?
I think the reaction would have been. It is weird because nowadays everybody's kind of warm on the subject of a crossover, so it's not really kind of mind-blowing.
Mm-hmm.
Back then, I think it would have been really almost more or less the same thing. There's going to be that big shock, but I don't know if it would have been a campy cameo or if it would have been a legit role.
Yeah, because I remember I heard the reason why it didn't happen was they couldn't find the suit in enough time or something like that. So I don't know what they would have ended up actually doing.
I feel like it would have been very reminiscent of the X-Men First Class cameo, kind of where we're just Logan sitting at a bar and they come to recruit him and he says basically F you.
Uh-huh.
I feel like it would have been something like that. You probably was sitting in some bar in New York City and
still on the news or something.
Tobey Maguire walks by and he's like, "Oh, get out of here, dweeb," or something.
That would have been amazing. I'm still really upset that Hugh Jackman. He's done. Then again, do you think they're going to coax him out for one more? I think
it's very possible, but also knowing Kevin Feige and stuff, once this Fox deal does pass, I think a lot of people just want to see fresh faces.
That's true. I mean, I feel though, if and when they do a Deadpool 3, based on the scene where you have Ryan Reynolds actually say, next time it's not going to be more than, a little wink, you're going to be in the next one.
Yeah, he has to be there.
I feel like you have to get that movie that one time. You've had so many, the teasing of it between the actual actors on social media and then in the movie, they just tease it.
I mean, it's got to happen, right? So there's many ways they could spin it. I would hope if they're doing Deadpool 3, when that does come out, even if it's in Disney's hands, just give Hugh Jackman the really cool yellow and blue suit. Like
that could be, we saw it together. I loved Logan. But I think one more kind of true to comic adaptation could be the proper way to send him off as Wolverine.
And it would be so perfect because they've teased with the idea of let's have Hugh Jackman in this yellow suit, especially with the deleted scene of the Wolverine.
Yeah.
And that's such a cool idea, but we've never seen it. And the closest we've ever gotten is like a Matrix style suit where it's just a yellow rivet and a yellow X or whatever for Wolverine. We need to see that really cool tank top.
The suit.
The suit for Wolverine.
Well, at least with the movies, because when I think of Wolverine, I think of the 3 different looks. At least in terms of the comics, you have the old suit, and you have the variations on the old suit. Cause
that
the weird,
brown and blue.
That one was always weird.
It is strange, yeah.
And then you have him with the white tank top, which we got a ton of.
Yeah.
And then the brown jacket. So I mean, at least you got 2 out of 3, but the biggest one is the one we didn't get.
It's very interesting too how you tackle the X-Men like the costumes. So they're very.
It's over the top.
Yeah, they're very over the top. Like you just look at a simple character, even like Gambit, where he's wearing like a trench coat and he has like the neck thing that kind of hides half of his face. It's definitely strange, but it's definitely a tough spot to tackle. And I think with what they had on that deleted scene in the Wolverine would be a really good starting point. I mean, you could probably go along with like a Kevlar vest or something with like a crazy ballistic mask and call it Wolverine. It would probably work. But I think the struggle there is how are we going to make this character look like Wolverine in real life?
Yeah, it's not even like they haven't done stuff like that before. It's not, and a lot of characters do get their redesigns, but they always seem to find ways to get the look. Like in Thor Ragnarok, he had his helmet.
Yeah.
And, so it was small, but it was there. And then in Spider-Man: Homecoming, he had the I don't know what you'd call them, the wings, the web
armpits. Yeah.
He had that, and it's just like how that, and they got his eyes to move.
Yeah, the animated eyes.
So it's like stuff that seems really hard to do and translate has been done and has been done well. So I feel like even if it's not Hugh Jackman, the next time we see the X-Men, we're gonna get the actual costumes. And they tried with the new generation, the new class.
Yeah.
Like they started having those characters wear the old kinds, but I think we're gonna get more, more true to it when Disney finally takes it.
The straight up costumes from the cartoons and all that stuff. I think even with Dark Phoenix, that trailer for the last Fox X-Men movie, they're trying their best to give you that comic book feel. Everybody has that like blue or black with the X and the yellow and all that stuff, and it looks good.
They had that at the end. Did you ever see Apocalypse?
I did not. No.
At the very end of Apocalypse, it's similar to the end of Age of Ultron, where you remember how they're all in that hangar and Captain America walks in and he says Avengers, and like they all are kind of just standing there and turn their heads.
Yeah.
It's similar to that, where I'm pretty sure they're on the what is it in X-Men, the training room.
The simulation room.
Yeah, they're in the simulation room, and James McAvoy gets in there, and they all have the costumes on.
Oh,
it's
that's so cool.
At the end, it's very similar to Age of Ultron in that way, where they're all there together. So, they showed it there, and I guess now the whole movie they're gonna have it. I don't know how well this movie's gonna do though.
Well, they're not even calling it X-Men. It's just Dark Phoenix.
Yeah,
so.
that's how they're
You
promoting
made that
it.
point, and I didn't even notice that. This movie's gonna be really tough to sell people on, especially with, nowadays everybody pretty much knows what a superhero in a comic book movie is. So
Yeah, it's not even like you can pass it off as something else.
Yeah.
It's just the way the world is now and how much information people have. Like they know what this is. They know the story. So if I were Fox, the way I would push this
Mhm.
is this is the last movie with this cast. So try to push the nostalgia on it. But I mean, these movies aren't crazy beloved, and they're not even that old, so you can't really get. And like they did that with Hugh Jackman with Logan,
Yeah.
saying this is his last time, and everyone was just like, he's been Wolverine forever. So
Yeah.
it's like, yeah. But with this one, it's like, yeah, I like McAvoy, I like Michael Fassbender, but it's like, I mean, I can't stand Jennifer Lawrence in those movies though.
No, neither can I. She's said multiple times too she hates wearing blue. Why'd you bother playing a character that is blue? That
Yeah.
you need to.
You knew what you were
Yeah.
signing up for.
Mystique is always and should be always blue.
Like at least Rebecca Romijn
Mhm.
or Romaine, however you say her name,
Yeah.
when she did in the originals, we saw one scene of like actually her,
Yeah.
and that's when they not
They
killed her off.
mutinized.
They gave her the cure in The Last Stand, so it's like she was able to do it.
It's-
They would have been. There was probably dozens upon hundreds of people, probably thousands, who were like, "Yeah, I'll take that role. I'll do that. I'll be covered in blue. I don't care." And they just want to get someone marketable, and who's like, "I don't even want to do it."
I think if Mystique does show up in the future, outside of these Fox X-Men movies, I don't know about you, but Mystique is really weird in these movies, just design-wise. She has like that weird reptile-like skin. She got the bumps.
The weird, the greasy slicked back hair.
Yeah, it's strange. Like Mystique's always been a villain, and she's like an anti-hero basically.
That I never understood. I always thought in the original 3, the what's his name? Who did it?
Bryan Singer.
Bryan
Yeah.
Singer. In the Bryan Singer movies, and Brett Ratner who did the 3rd one. But in those movies, she was perfect. She
Yeah.
was his sidekick,
Mhm.
and that's all she needed to be. And then in this one, and then in the new ones, it's like she's essentially the main character. It's her story if you really think about it. And that I never got into that. And Days of Future Past is actually one of my top 10 favorite comic book movies. I love that movie. Yet just all the stuff with her, I'm just like, who cares? She's not a really a compelling enough character for me to be like, yeah, let's make her like the lead of this movie.
What I don't get is, and I mean they set it up this way, so I kind of basically blame how they look at Mystique, but Mystique is, like I was saying, is and always was a villain. It's like I don't know why she's getting a front spot as being some hero, and when we do see her, for the most part, it's just Jennifer Lawrence
Yeah.
playing as a superhero sometimes.
And that's another thing too in terms of like the movie. Wouldn't she want a different look because she's always associated with that particular look? Why does she like that look so much?
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense for the character. It doesn't make sense in the movie. That wasn't really a good thing.
It's definitely time for a reboot. Like I felt this way since Days of Future Past. I didn't see Apocalypse. Dark Phoenix looks interesting, but I'm not like, I don't need to go see it. I probably won't.
I think we talked about this. I say I kind of want to see it based on that nostalgia that the Fox X-Men movies, they've been real hit or miss. Like the good ones are really good.
Yeah.
The bad ones are really bad. So it's like, I don't know. I still want to see it just because it's the last one of those. Because it always kind of felt cool with the X-Men movies that it's its own thing.
Yeah.
Now that it's gonna be part of the MCU, it's just another MCU movie, and it might be really good. It probably will be awesome when they make that first, X-Men movie, or when they make their first appearance. But then it's kind of it's just another one.
Yeah.
Rather-
how are we
rather
going to
than-
get these guys in the Avengers?
Yeah, rather than it being like its own thing. That was always kind of cool with the X-Men movies. Is that felt like the third brand essentially. Like you had Marvel movies, you had DC movies, you had X-Men movies. Now, even though X-Men were part of
Marvel.
Marvel,
Yeah.
it was its own thing, and you're just kind of like, Yeah, I could buy that.
With and when Marvel acquires Fox and they get the X-Men license back, basically it's just going to be DC versus Marvel. It's like you said, there's those three branches, and I feel like you can even categorize like the original Raimi movies and even like
Sony.
Andrew Garfield,
Sony is its own thing. However, it's like you go from DC, which is mixed at best. It's mixed at best. Marvel, which is universally praised, and then Sony, which is universally panned.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of how it falls. So I don't know. I never really considered that. And plus, the way I thought about it with X-Men being its own brand, essentially, outside of DC and Marvel, is because it's a team.
Oh yeah.
Rather than it being the one character. So it's like, you could have your movie that focuses on, Professor X and Magneto. You could have one that focuses on Wolverine and that, they all team up.
Yeah.
So it felt more like the universe stuff, like DC and Marvel, rather than Spider-Man, which is one guy.
Yeah, one guy, and where they kind of make subtle nods to other stuff, but it never fleshes out. It's always just Spider-Man.
I mean, I think that's a pretty good segue into what Sony has been doing. So I counted it yesterday. This is technically the 5th universe that Sony has tried with Spider-Man, if you think about it, they're on. So you had the Sam Raimi, Tobey Maguire trilogy. That's 1.
Yeah.
You had the Amazing Spider-Man movies with Andrew Garfield. That's 2. Sony has its hands in Homecoming. That's 3. Venom is not part of the Homecoming universe, and they're making movies in that universe about Spider-Man villains without Spider-Man.
Yeah.
That's 4. And then you have the cartoon that comes out in December.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was like, where did you get 5 from?
That is 5 different iterations of Spider-Man that Sony has done, and they started making these movies in 2002. You've had 5 different, I guess you could say Elseworlds, universes of Spider-Man in 16 years. What are they doing?
Sony is trying to hold on to the name of Spider-Man and all of its villains because Spider-Man basically prints money. Insomniac Games just made a fantastic PlayStation game, and it feels like it's probably its best movie up for Spider-Man, I'd say.
Really?
I'd say it is probably the best story you can experience for an entertainment type thing. So whether it's a movie, video game, whatever, the PS4 Spider-Man game hits it on the head.
I know you were crazy and still are about Homecoming.
Yeah.
And so this even is better than that.
In terms of Spider-Man, it is my favorite Spider-Man I think I've always wanted. So it's my favorite voice actor. It's Yuri Lowenthal. I've always loved that guy. He's done crazy anime stuff and played many video game characters and all that stuff.
Has he done Spider-Man before in a series or anything, or is this his first go?
I don't believe so. This is his first gig.
Okay.
And I fell in love with it because I love the voice. He fits Peter. This is Spider-Man well into his years of Spider-Man. So he's maybe about 8 years, and he's starting to, come to realize his life is okay, but it has its up and downs. So he's relationship troubles, career challenges, meeting old villains, and all that other stuff. And it's beautiful, but
I'm excited to play it.
It's so good. It's so good. But with like the 5 universes going on right now, Venom is something they shouldn't have tampered with until the MCU. That's just how I feel. It's really cool. We were talking about that Tom Hardy is Eddie Brock. Eddie Brock in Venom is my favorite comic book character ever. I've loved that character for so long, and to see him get a movie by himself after all these years of speculation, it's just really sad to see that it's not good. I still need to see it. But with that shared universe within Venom, we're getting Morbius, which is like a vampire. And
Jared Leto is going to be in that one.
Jared Leto is going to be Morbius, I think. And again, if you're having these really interesting Spider-Man villains, they work best with Spider-Man. So
exactly. We've talked about this too. brings to mind the Joker movie coming out in about a year. I think it's October of next year. And the reason like that is going to work is while it's a story about him, they've cast somebody as Thomas Wayne, as Batman's dad. So this Joker, you know, we might never see it, but eventually he's going to meet Batman. Venom isn't going to meet Spider-Man.
No, it's a Venom with a new origin story within a universe without Spider-Man, which is so strange.
It's literally Spider-Man's rogues gallery by itself. It doesn't make sense. I don't like, and I know it had a really good opening. I think it made like 80 million opening weekend. When I went yesterday, I mean, I don't even like the theater I went to. It's never really that busy to begin with. Not really a packed theater. And it's bad because like, and I know I'm saying this to you, and like I don't want like to offend you because it's your favorite character. I mean, I hope word of mouth almost destroys this movie because it seems to me like Sony doesn't learn because this keeps happening. You know, and to put out so I've seen the movie and I can't attest it's bad.
Yeah,
it's not good. You know, I know people have said, you know, it's a fun mess. I was bored the whole time.
Oof.
Like that's the worst part. Yeah. You know, I saw Suicide Squad in theaters. It's not a good movie.
No, it's not.
But I was entertained.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Like there was never a point where I checked my phone for the time where I didn't look over at my friend and go, wow, this is terrible. Like you're laughing at it, you're laughing with it, you know, you're enjoying it. It's what a movie is supposed to be. It may not be a good movie, but it's still, you know, enjoyable. This one, you know, Tom Hardy walks on the street. He goes into a building. He has a conversation. He continues to walk down the street. That's all the movie is. And then you get these really poorly rendered and animated action scenes. And I'm sitting there, and I explained it to you in the car. The ending fight scene, you have two guys with the symbiotes, which are not there. They're all computer generated. It looks like a cartoon when two characters are fighting, and there's a cloud of smoke, and you see a hand there, and a leg there, and a head stick out. That's what it looked like. It's laughably bad.
And that's rough.
And not laughably bad in the sense that it's entertaining.
It's just bad.
In the sense that you're just like, wow, somebody approved this and went, we're going to make so much money. This is going to be so good. And people walked out of the theater saying it was good. And I'm sitting around there going, really? Like, you liked it?
To draw comparisons to, like, Suicide Squad, like how you said you were entertained to it, I remember sitting watching Suicide Squad. Yeah, it's a bad movie, but we also had Margot Robbie is probably spot on with Harley Quinn. Jared Leto was interesting to watch as the Joker. Obviously, he's not the Joker, but
do you hate Jared Leto as Joker? I don't hate him, but I know he's the worst.
I don't hate him. I was rooting for him going into the movie because I really like Jared Leto. I think when he acts well, he's like incredible.
Blade Runner.
Yeah, Joker. That Joker is interesting. It's
different.
Yeah, it's very different, and he started having fun at the end of the movie, like when he's like breaking in to save Harley, and it's like Joker on the police department stuff. It was cool. Every time Joker was on the screen, I wanted to see more of him, and every time they were away, we got really annoying side characters I didn't care about. Because I feel like when you go to see Suicide Squad, you want to see Deadshot, you want to see Harley Quinn.
And Deadshot was great also.
Yeah, Deadshot was awesome. Will Smith was really good. And a big character I was looking forward to, but I didn't like how he was in the movie, was Killer Croc.
I knew that's where you're going to go with it. He was trash.
I laughed.
You know what, honestly, I would love, and with all the news that James Gunn is now writing the Suicide Squad sequel, and he might direct it, you recast Killer Croc, and you have Dave Bautista play him.
Wow,
that would be cool.
That would be cool, yeah.
Right? Or you have him play, because I mean that's the big thing is with the whole James Gunn being fired and Dave Bautista has, you know, he said he's like, I want to be in Suicide Squad too. He wants to work with the guy that he signed on to work with.
That basically enhanced his career as an actor. Yeah, for sure.
You know, and I don't want to say that, you know, he owes James Gunn everything, but I think he feels like that. Mm-hmm. That's his guy. You know, that's who gets the best out of him. And you know, he got let go, so now he's upset, and understandably so. You know, like I mentioned the story to somebody else where I knew a girl in high school who committed to play soccer at some college, and she commits, And then a little while later, the coach gets fired, and she's like, that changes everything. So she decommits because that's not what she signed up for. You know, Dave Bautista signed up for James Gunn's Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
That's the guy. And then when you take him out of it and it just becomes, you know, another cookie cutter thing, just like anything else, why should he want to do it? So you understand why he does that. But I do think he could do Killer Croc, but I also think he could also do Bane with the mask. Like the full comic book mask.
I think he would be an awesome Bane.
The intellectual, the venom,
yeah,
the serum in him, it could work.
There's so many outlooks and different ways Suicide Squad 2 could go where I think it just benefits over the top. Like, get rid of Killer Croc, maybe just add Bane to it. Like,
get rid of Rick Flag.
Yeah.
Enchantress is gone. Get her out of there.
Like, start doing like fan favorites, I guess. And yeah, there's a lot of fan favorite characters in the first Suicide Squad. I just don't think they were done well. Like, obviously we knew Slipknot was going to get killed pretty much right away. He was just there to show that, hey, there's a suicide bomb in them to like
it almost felt like when Marvel made Guardians of the Galaxy, you know, everyone joked it's like, oh, scraping the bottom of the barrel and like, you know, reaching with characters. But then, you know, they also were still making their steady flow of their big names.
Yeah, the Iron Mans, the Captain Americas.
Exactly. But DC, that was what, their fourth movie in this universe? And you went to the Suicide Squad? Like, you still had... And now we're getting, like, Aquaman, and then Flash, and
Cyborg somewhere down the line.
Wonder Woman came after Suicide Squad. So your big names are following up this essentially bottom-of-the-barrel team that... What was it meant to do? It's not even... And it's not even... They were trying to say, you know, what's the villains? You know, that's our strong suits, the villains. I mean, you didn't even really have the good villains. You had like one.
Yeah,
you had one actual villain, and who's good, and that's Harley Quinn. You know, Deadshot. I don't know if I count him as a villain.
Deadshot's always kind of been like that mercenary that pops into Batman comics every now and then.
He's just a mercenary watching out for his family, doing what he's good at. Granted, he's killing people, but I mean, he's not a villain in the sense of, you know,
like pure evil, like Joker
taking over the world,
stuff like that. Yeah.
So it was a questionable just to begin with. A lot of what they've done with the DC movies is questionable. I mean, I know I still find some enjoyment in them. I know you do too.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
When you're looking at Suicide Squad, I feel like that was easily like, hey, if Marvel Studios can go ahead and make Guardians of the Galaxy with like a talking tree and raccoon, like a lot of people have been saying, yeah, they're bottom of the barrel characters, and I always found them interesting. I like dedicated a year before that movie came out to really get into those characters.
Really?
So
I didn't know that.
I bought a bunch of comic books. Always really liked the idea of Rocket Raccoon, but I never knew him. Like, I've heard about him for years and all this stuff, so I sat down and read Guardians of the Galaxy. Fell in love with the characters, so going into the movies, I had a really strong opinion on what I was hoping to get. But with Suicide Squad, it was basically they're like, all right, we can grab a group. We have Suicide Squad. That's going to be our Guardians of the Galaxy. But when you watch that first trailer for that movie, it's this really good, in my opinion, it's this really good, serious kind of sit down with some of Batman's villains. And, of course, other DC villains. And I thought it looked really good. And then you could see, after the success of Guardians of the Galaxy...
And after the failure of Batman vs. Superman.
Then the next trailer, you get this Queen-filled trailer with one-off lines and fun and all this other stuff. But DC always kind of pushed that more serious, gritty tone in their movies. Maybe not intentionally, but that's just how it always felt.
And that's the thing, though. That wasn't always their thing.
Yeah.
It was just because of how successful Christopher Nolan was.
Yeah.
That was Christopher Nolan simultaneously saved and killed DC, if you think about it.
I feel like I don't want to blame Zack Snyder, but after seeing... I could be wrong, but wasn't Man of Steel also like influenced a little bit with Nolan? Like, didn't Nolan have something to do with it?
He was a producer on it.
Yeah,
and I don't think and I mean, it might have been name only, but I remember it came out the year after Rises. The trailer was paired with it.
It was
It
in
looked
Rises,
it
yeah.
looked to be on the same playing field in terms of seriousness, real life, which doesn't really work with Superman if you think about it.
Yeah.
But I think Nolan, it feels like he was more involved with that than anything else, because I'm pretty sure he was also an EP on Batman vs Superman.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he was, and I think even Justice League. So his name might be on there just to promote the movie, but they never like promoted him being a part of it.
Yeah. Like with Zack Snyder, he's previously, before he made Man of Steel, he made like 300, and he made The Watchmen. And I still haven't seen 300, which is crazy. But from what I've seen of Watchmen and from what I've heard of 300,
And he did Sucker Punch.
and he did
right?
Sucker Punch,
That's
which was
another
his own. It was his own project.
Okay.
So I haven't seen that either. But he does a lot of from page to movie. So what that means is you see the beginning of The Watchmen, and you have the comedian dying, and it's by panel, like in the comic book when you're reading it. So he's recreating these scenes, live action. It looks amazing. But when you tackle a huge character like Superman, you got to realize that Superman, yeah, he's really cool written in certain ways, but there's just something different with the DCEU Superman going on right now. There's been many people online who say it's a good Elseworld story. I like Superman, but I also like my Superman mean. So I think he's best written when he's angry. But I get where Zack Snyder kind of wanted that darker universe following the Christopher Nolan stuff. So I don't know if he just figured, hey, since Nolan did a really good trilogy of darker movies, maybe we can make Superman more grounded and a little bit more grittier. Because it is weird not seeing Superman until basically Justice League, where he starts saving people by choice. It's really strange when we saw Justice League together and you see Superman and somebody shrieks and he's like, wait, I gotta go save them. I looked right at you. I'm like, is this actually happening right now?
I remember the scene where his head snaps and he goes, civilians.
Yeah.
And he's gone. And it's just like, oh, wow, that's right. He is a superhero.
Thanks, Josh. Yeah, it's so weird. Like I was saying, I love my Superman angry, so I'm kind of biased there. But
when you talk about Superman being angry, and you talk about the DCU, and I think about that scene, the nightmare scene,
yeah,
in Batman vs Superman. I remember because obviously they were copying Marvel in the sense that they were trying to build to Darkseid.
Yeah.
I thought they were building to an Injustice movie. How cool would that have been?
I think an Injustice movie would work so well for the DCEU stuff.
It's dark, it's epic. It seems like the culmination of something. You can have those, the parallel dimensions. It would have worked. I just feel like Warner Brothers saw Infinity War, or what they were.
They have a Thanos. We need a Darkseid.
They're like, well, we need a big thing for them to team up against, rather than have the alternative, which is similar in the sense that they're teaming up and there's all the superheroes, but it goes off in its own direction. They're literally just like, oh, they're having a versus movie. We'll have our guys versus each other. That's what it felt like, and it's upsetting because DC should be better.
Yeah,
they have better characters.
DC
better
has
heroes.
Rich history, and
it should be better.
So many good side characters that work really well with their main characters.
It should be Marvel. It should be like what it was in the 90s.
Yeah.
Where Marvel is trying to play catch up. They're desperately trying to find their way to match DC.
And unfortunately, there's going to be kids who are born in the 2000s and stuff, where they're going to see Henry Cavill's Superman as like why they love Superman. And I don't think that's a problem at all, because I really like Henry Cavill as Superman, but I just don't think he got the right amount of content to work with.
I also think what's unfortunate with Henry Cavill is I think kids are going to grow up and just be like, oh, Superman, and just not really pay attention to it. Same thing with Batman. Like, I think that it's going to happen, and Batman's he's my favorite character. Ben Affleck is probably my second favorite Batman.
He was really good as Batman.
And it's just now you're gonna see this tide turn where kids are gonna grow up and it's gonna be like, Ant-Man's my favorite superhero. When 10 years ago we would have been like, nerd, get out of here.
Yeah.
He's not real. Like, who cares about Ant-Man? But now it's like, Ant-Man's my favorite. Ant-Man and the Wasp is my favorite movie of 2018. Like, that's gonna happen now. And then you're gonna have people go, ew, Batman, ew, Superman. Wonder Woman was okay, but those movies are bad.
I almost hate technology for and the internet at times like this, because it's gotten into where ever since like maybe 2010 or so, ever since memes and all that stuff started coming out, the DC comics in general are almost a joke, regardless if you talk about the TV series like Arrow and stuff now, which are really successful. People are just saying, oh, it's not Marvel, I'm not going to bother. Where definitely Marvel has its issues. Just like last night, Netflix dropped season 3 of Iron Fist. It's canceled. So like there's no more Iron Fist. That's a character I really do like. It's part of the Defenders line that they're working on that's in the MCU supposedly. But yeah, there's a lot of these DC haters that straight up hate that series just because, oh, it's not Iron Man, it's not Captain America.
Yeah, and they're being based off of one aspect.
Mm-hmm.
You know, with these entities that are these comic book companies, there's so much to them, and you know, there's great TV shows. I mean, personally, I haven't gotten into them.
Yeah, same.
That's just, I'm not a big TV show guy. I think I watched 3 TV shows.
Yeah.
Walking Dead, South Park, and The Simpsons, I guess. But they're really good from what I hear. I know a ton of people who love them. It's just like, oh, DC.
Yeah.
Well, it's good content. You know, those shows keep getting made and keep getting renewed. You know, Titans, which you and I thought both looked terrible.
Yeah.
It got renewed for a second season. So they're doing something right. But then you keep seeing how many Netflix shows has Marvel gone through where they're just like, one season, canceled. Crossover, we're not going to see him again. That doesn't work, but no one mentions it.
Yeah.
So it's really, and I don't want to say like hypocritical, but it's just sort of like a thing where people are misinformed. They just kind of assume like, oh, because some of these movies have bad Rotten Tomato scores, you know, let's crap on it.
Mm-hmm. It's really unfortunate now, because I had this conversation with somebody years ago where, aside from Man of Steel and Superman in general, Superman was almost like a merchandise icon. Like, there are people who don't know Superman at all, comics or movie wise, but they'll go buy a Superman T-shirt. They'll have like
they will work out in that shirt with the S on it.
They will go buy their like mugs and all that other stuff because it is Superman. And I feel like Marvel is kind of like that, especially looking at their Netflix stuff, where, yeah, Daredevil's awesome. I love Daredevil. Punisher's cool. I haven't seen him yet. But Punisher always sells merchandise. Like, just think about how many Punisher shirts you see in the mall. Think about the people who like are big gun advocates. I guess there's like a Punisher logo that is used for something out there.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I've seen people like talk about like weapons and it's always a Punisher logo. But yeah, now you got characters like Iron Fist. I've always loved Iron Fist, but I guess it just wasn't doing well. And Luke Cage is kind of like a certain thing. Just same with Jessica Jones. But yeah, Marvel is doing well with making content that's really good, like their MCU movies, and then making merchandise off of it. There's like a dancing Groot almost in every store.
Exactly. The only something though, like what you were saying, is people like don't even know who some of the DC heroes are, or like they know who they are.
Mm-hmm.
Like they just know the name, they don't know the comics, they don't know the movies, they don't know everything. But it's just like really identifiable. Like you show somebody that S, they know what it is. You show someone the Batman symbol, they know what it is. I've seen people, and I know, you know, I've seen somebody here at the school walk around and they have a shirt that's a black shirt, and you see an arc reactor. I bet you a lot of people don't know what that is. And once you say it's Iron Man, because it's not like a logo, it's just a thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I feel like
there's no symbol like or anything.
Yeah, so I just feel like with something that DC has is, like you say, it's so rich and it has so much history behind it. People know these characters without knowing them.
Well, you can even walk. I've seen many people and many stores sell Nightwing and Red Hood and even Batman Beyond T-shirts, and people know what it is. And even if they don't know that it's like Batman per se, they could see it and they go, "Oh, is that Batman?" Yeah, it is. It's related to Batman.
It just works. So let's segue a little bit more to personal stuff. So we're talking about all these movies and everything. Number one, favorite comic book movie.
That's really tough.
It's a tough question, but I feel like there's so many different ways to go with it. Like, so what, or even if you want to like narrow it down, favorite Marvel movie.
My favorite Marvel movie in-house for MCU, I'll say, is Spider-Man: Homecoming.
Okay.
But honestly, maybe overall, it's still Spider-Man 2 with Tobey Maguire. I love that movie. It's very near and dear to my heart. I remember watching it in the theater, just like the first movie. There's something so special about the Sam Raimi trilogy that I feel like a lot of people overlook, especially with Spider-Man 3. Yeah, it's bad, but there's still... We were talking about in the car about Venom. It's like Venom has a better origin story in that movie than he does in the new movie.
Again, even though it's not the best movie, you're still entertained the entire time.
Definitely. I love the pointing hands and dancing down the street.
Yeah, when I got my first HD TV and I had my PS3, the first Blu-ray I ever put in there to see the power of this TV was Spider-Man 3, and I skipped to that scene of emo Peter Parker.
Yes.
It's just so entertaining. And I think what helps with me with a lot of that stuff is, I mean, we've talked about it. Like, you hate, like, and I think it's probably one of your least favorite movies, with Iron Man 3 with the twist, with the Mandarin.
I can't stand that movie.
So I didn't get really offended by it because, unlike you, I didn't read the comics when I grew up. All I had was the movies. That was my introduction to the character. Honestly, once the internet became prevalent, that's when I kind of started learning about more of it. I knew that they came from comics.
Yeah.
I knew that. I just never read them. So all I had was the movies. Eventually, I started, learning the backstories more, the different arcs, the different variations on characters. So I think because of that, when comic movies do stuff like that, when they have emo Peter Parker, when they have the Mandarin twist in Iron Man 3, it doesn't bother me as much because I'm not as attached.
Yeah.
So it's sort of just like, oh, because I just see it generally from a movie perspective rather than an adaptation perspective.
I gotcha. Spider-Man or Iron Man 3 is a very specific taste for me because I wasn't an Iron Man guy. I appreciated the character. I knew of Mandarin, so I had to like read a little bit about him before I saw the movie, and I got that he was like this guy with like rings and he can use magic and all that other stuff. And going into that movie, this was the first solo movie after the Avengers, so I was expecting this darker story and personal troubles of Tony Stark, and that's what they showed in the trailers. And
really good trailers.
Yeah,
I remember seeing them during the Super Bowl.
The trailers were incredible, and also I thought they were going to set up Norman Osborn because he is the Iron Patriot, so in the comics, and he's part of the Dark Avengers and all that other stuff. But
that I never would have known that.
Yeah, and I'm like, here we go. We're going to get Norman Osborn in the MCU. Spider-Man's coming soon, so that stuff kind of really shocked me.
I still think he's coming. I think he's the one that bought Avengers Tower.
Yeah, that's probably the best option for who would buy the Avengers Tower, and I hope so.
That's a pretty big plot point.
Yeah,
that they can't just ignore. That can't just go away. Like, somebody bought the tower that Tony Stark designed and fought people at. Like, that needs to come back. I'm hoping in the next Spider-Man movie.
Yeah, especially with like Happy, right? That's Jon Favreau's character. You've seen him inside the tower moving. They were talking about moving. There was that whole plane sequence. It was a huge part of Spider-Man: Homecoming.
Plus, you got to think, if somebody's buying that tower,
who has the money to?
They have to have some power, some money. It can't just be some random corporation. So I'm really hoping that they throw up the Oscorp logo on there.
They could. I think Oscorp is its best bet. That's the bet I'm hoping for because Norman Osborn is a great character. Then you have characters like Harry and then all those other ones.
Yeah.
The only other option I could think of who buys the tower is Reed Richards. So Fantastic Four down the line, but that's just weird.
But they have the Baxter Building.
Yeah, it's strange. I don't.
You know what? I don't think we ever talked about it. Speaking of Fantastic Four, what did you think of the old movies?
I like the first one. I don't think I've ever seen Silver
You
Surfer.
never saw Silver Surfer?
No, I've heard about the Galactus cloud.
He's literally he's just a fart in space that
Yeah.
travels from planet to planet. He's just a cloud.
Uh,
I loved those movies when I was little, because it kind of sucks that we grew up the time we did,
mhm.
because we had X-Men, X-Men 2, Spider-Man, Spider-Man 2,
Yeah.
but we also had some stinkers. We had Ghost Rider, we had Jonah Hex,
Oh.
right? We had Green Lantern even. So
Mhm.
like we kind of had this stuff, and then like kids now who are in their early teens,
Mhm.
they essentially know nothing but quality.
Yeah, but to the point you were bringing up earlier about like the separate universes and to like what era we grew up for movies, I kind of have to appreciate it though, because think about the amount of experimentation we got with those movies.
Mhm.
Yeah, Nicolas Cage may have not been the best Ghost Rider, but it was still really cool to see a Ghost Rider movie.
Yeah.
Like it's so cool. I remember watching that movie with my dad. Ironically, his phone, his ringtone at the time was Crazy Train. So when it went off in the movie, we were like going nuts because I thought it was his phone. Anyway, yeah, Nicolas Cage's Ghost Rider, very strange, but we did get Fantastic Four, and it was pretty much accurate as I could tell for like the characters. I was never a big Fantastic Four guy, but they stretched and they turned invisible. There was a big rock man.
Like it hit all the beats.
Yeah, it hit all the beats and looked accurate enough to believe it. Even Doctor Doom was very accurate looking, I thought.
The actor Julian McMahon.
Mhm.
I like Julian McMahon.
Yeah.
I mean, he doesn't do anything anymore, but I liked him as the bad guy in that movie.
Yeah, I mean, anything's better than the Fantastic Four from a couple of years ago.
I don't recall. Was that a thing? Did that happen?
Yeah.
Did Fox make that?
That was a little blemish on the history of superhero movies.
I honestly feel like, I feel like we've talked about it. We've talked about Fox and
Mhm.
X-Men a lot. I feel like with the whole merger, or even just a license sharing or something, I honestly feel like X-Men could stand on its own. But if anything needed to be integrated into the MCU, it would be Fantastic Four.
Yeah, definitely.
I feel like just in terms of story, they could fit right in there. In terms of a group of characters to kind of carry the baton, because I'm pretty sure Guardians 3 is gonna be the last Guardians movie,
Mhm.
and then you're gonna have, I'm guessing, the new Avengers or something take over, and if you have the Fantastic Four, it's a team that people know, that you could sign these guys to, they eat your picture contracts,
Mhm.
and they're locked up until whatever you do next.
I feel like Marvel kind of shot themselves in the foot a little bit with Inhumans last year when they made that TV series.
Geez, yeah.
Because Inhumans would have been the perfect like next wave of Guardians of the Galaxy. Like what's going to
Next
happen
team.
after that team? Fantastic Four is going to be really cool to see in the MCU because I want to see the dynamics of Reed Richards talking to, and I don't want to say that there may not be an Iron Man in the future for MCU.
There might not.
Especially with the next part of Infinity War. I want to see the dynamic between like Stephen Strange and Reed Richards. I want to see
Hank Pym.
yeah,
and
like
Reed
all that
Richards.
stuff. It would be so cool, and I think
Bruce
the
Banner,
the
like-
Thing versus Hulk, and all that stuff.
There's so much cool stuff that they could get to, but it might be too late. I mean, that's what I want to ask you next. When Avengers 4 comes out, which we still don't know the title,
Mhm.
still don't have a trailer. We're what are we? We're like 6 months away.
Yeah, it's right around the corner.
Which is crazy. Like it literally is, because this is 10, and it comes out in May, so maybe like 7 months.
Yeah,
It's 5.
I think it's like May 4th. I wouldn't be surprised if it
Or
comes
it's
out in April
I
again.
think it might be early April. So, because I'm pretty sure Disney has, I think the new Aladdin movie's May also.
Yeah, you're right.
So I mean,
like
I don't
May
think
26th.
so. I don't
or
think they're going to
something.
want it too close, so they might do the April
Mhm.
again. So we're a solid 6 months away.
We're pretty much going to get a trailer almost any month now.
Yeah, it's just a matter of waiting. I'm trying to think of what big movie they have coming that they could pair it with. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
But anyway, with that, it's sort of the end of the era. Like, who do you think goes? Do you think they all go?
It's a really tough question. I think Infinity War was predictable when everything was going down at the end. I think it was predictable to see who is going to end up getting cut in the next movie and who's going to stay. Then there was also a lot of shocking stuff. Like first off, killing half of the MCU like with a snap is like obviously these characters are not dead. They got to be somewhere, like a parallel dimension or something.
Yeah, I still think it was such a
it was a
risky,
huge shock.
It's just a risky thing because you're just like, they're gonna save the day. That's what happens, and then they didn't.
Yeah, and Thanos wins basically, and he smiles at the end, and it just roll credits.
And I sat there and I went, thank you. Like that's what they needed to do.
Mm-hmm.
It was great, but the fact that the way they did it, where they left all the original ones whose contracts are running up, they're the ones who I feel like the only one who really needs to die in order for like a complete story arc. Captain America's story's over.
Yeah, and especially with Chris Evans recently saying how much he loves the character and how emotional it was. Basically saying a goodbye, which we saw coming, but also it's still like a shock.
Unless, what if they use the stones for like a parallel dimension past where he could go relive his life in the 40s?
It would be amazing.
That I think would be the perfect ending for him, where he comes full circle and gets to finally live his life. Or he dies in battle because he's a soldier, and that's the whole thing.
The captain goes down with the ship, basically. Yeah.
Yeah. In terms of story, though, Iron Man doesn't need to die.
He doesn't. No.
I don't think he needs to. I feel like
since they already kind of cheated death a little bit
several times, they've done with him.
Especially with Thanos cutting him or whatever in the last movie, people are not going to be too anxious about it.
Did you actually think anything happened to him when that happened? When you saw it, I didn't even think that it was. I didn't think it was a thing. I was just like, he got hurt.
I jolted, and I was like, I think this is going to be a scare, but I don't think you can kill him off that quick.
Because I know some people were just like, oh, here we go. I was like, he's not going anywhere. I'm like, that's not happening. It
was shocking, but it didn't like make me think he was dying.
Yeah, I feel like he's had his arc where he's become, he was just, it went from you're not a hero to, he is now. But I feel like in that mentor role, he's just so perfect.
Yeah.
So I don't want to see him go. Hulk, I guess you could say he's done, but because that's the thing, what do you have left for him to do? Because they're not making a solo movie because Universal still has the rights, and if there's a solo movie, they have to get involved. But if he's just appearing, he's allowed to be another.
There's one movie Hulk still needs to do, and I think not that I want to keep talking about X-Men, but I think you definitely need a Wolverine versus Hulk. And I think that would be incredible. You could probably even get Hugh Jackman for that, but I'd rather have just a new guy.
I kind of want Clint Eastwood's son to play him. I think you're the one who sent me the concept art.
There was that concept art where he's in the brown and yellow or the blue and yellow suit, and it looked amazing.
It'd be great for that. Thor, I think they could do more with, because I think they just started getting Thor right.
Yeah, Thor, and especially in Dark World, you started to see more of the world building of that whole universe, and it's not a good movie, but it was really cool to see Asgard and the different branches and different realms. And in Ragnarok, we got to see a really cool villain with Hela, and I think it was Fenrir, her dog or whatever.
Oh, I don't remember the dog. I just know it was the big dog.
Anyway, but like it was really cool to see that stuff. Character that I've always wanted to see in the Thor movies is Beta Ray Bill. I don't know if you're familiar with it. He looks like a horse, but he's... There
was the Easter egg of his face on the
Grandmaster's building.
Oh, Jeff.
Yeah. That's a character I've been waiting for, and I think there was like a love triangle between him and Lady Sif, but I don't know what happened with Sif. I don't know if she's dead or not after the snap. So.
I know they said, like... that also reminds me, they did that interview with the Russo brothers about side characters and what happens.
Like Valkyrie and all that.
And I know with some of them, he was just like, we can't say. I really hope that the Fourth Avengers opens with the snap. Like, it's like...
Still more of the fallout.
Yeah, so like we essentially have almost like one of the Rocky movies where the next one begins or the last one ends, where they just show the clip. You show him do the snap, but then rather than be in Wakanda still, we go around the world. So you see Natalie Portman sitting at a desk, and then she's gone. Stuff like that.
I thought that post-credit scene was also the perfect place to end the Avengers as well, the Infinity War, when Samuel L. Jackson's like going crazy and you start seeing the world. I don't want to say that it was very 9/11ish, but it was a terrorist feeling, and you're like, oh my God,
it was scary.
Yeah.
So I feel like I hope this movie, and I feel like it will open with just the fallout. And I know you didn't see Ant-Man
I
and the
saw
Wasp
the I
yet.
saw the post-credit scene though.
It was
Yeah.
he's in the what is it?
He's in the van or
No, yeah. What's
the
the
time box or whatever.
No, it's the like the microverse there.
Yeah.
But I forget
the macro.
whatever it's
Yeah.
called. He's down. He's molecular,
Mm-hmm.
and everyone starts to fade away. I was watching that movie, and so the way it ends, and he gets he reunites with his daughter. At the end, they had this cheery music, and the whole movie. It was a comedy.
Yeah.
It's a comedy. I was waiting for when he reunites with his daughter. He like hugs her, and she turns into ash, and the movie was gonna get so serious and just end right there. But that's not what ended up happening. But I'm like, can you imagine if Marvel's just like, yeah, like that's what we're doing? That would have been such a crazy ending.
Marvel needs to take a little bit more risks. I think Infinity War was a perfect step in the right direction.
Yeah.
But going into the Doctor Strange movies, I thought Doctor Strange was specifically a little bit darker, which I kind of liked, especially his origins and all that other stuff.
And all the punishment he took.
Yeah, and I watched it recently, and when he gets in that car crash, you're just like, man,
real.
yeah, and you're like seeing him try and like work with his hands, and you just feel so
they're
bad.
mangled.
Yeah, definitely a grittier approach. I think Marvel plays it very safe because they have like a very specific formula, especially like how Thor adapted the Guardians style.
Sometimes that works though.
Sometimes it does work, but
I mean, it felt like more of a risk having Thor essentially become a Guardian in the Galaxy type character, because he was Shakespeare, if you think about it. He was Norse mythology. He was very serious.
he was the darker MCU character, I guess, if you're looking.
Yeah, even if that's the right word, I don't even know if dark is a thing. He's the more serious.
Mm-hmm.
And then you literally turned him into, in my opinion, the funniest character in the whole series. Thor became my favorite Avenger because of that and the way he was portrayed in Infinity War.
He got a huge facelift. Like he's just awesome.
Which is what I was getting to. Which is what I meant when I said with characters getting killed off. I don't want to see Thor go because they just got him right. I want to see a movie of Thor and the Guardians of the Galaxy going to explore space or something, going to like the wreckage of Asgard or something.
And nowhere and like all that stuff, yeah.
I want to see that movie. So I'm really hoping that he's not done, because if we only got 2 movies out of this, this prime Thor, the one with the short hair,
Yeah.
then I don't know.
I think with Thor especially, the majority of the viewers probably started to really like Thor. So I think I would hope Marvel realizes and goes, hey, people want more Thor, and we're going to keep him around.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if we had the old Thor, I don't know if he would have survived Infinity War, to be honest with you.
If Ragnarok was what it looked like it was going to be based off his vision in Age of Ultron.
Just darker, weird.
That weird dance people were doing, and Idris Elba's eyes were like, they were just really like bloodshot. They were weird looking. If that was the movie, like if it was, again, Shakespearean, you had all the dark world and the first Thor elements, I don't think anybody would care. But I think because of what they did with him, he's huge. He's huge now.
Yeah. And it's probably the perfect step you could have taken with Thor. And that's the only kind of stuff you would hope to move forward with within the MCU. Like, Spider-Man is Spider-Man. Tony Stark, Iron Man is Iron Man. And they get it pretty much to the T. There's characters like Doctor Strange where I couldn't believe how well he works live action.
Exactly. Yeah, some things it translates well, or they just did right by evolving the character. So I'll probably ask you one last question before we wrap this up, because we're about to hit the 1 hour mark.
All right.
That did not feel like an hour.
No, it
by
didn't.
the way.
No.
That flew, because this is a normal conversation that I would have with you.
Yeah.
Just through text or if we hung out like we are today. So I asked you your favorite movie, and you don't have to like go into detail. Least favorite comic book movie. If you had to pick one that you just hated, least favorite.
It's going to give me...
Mine honestly might be Venom after seeing it last night, because at least with like Batman and Robin and Batman Forever and Suicide Squad, I was entertained.
Yeah.
I was so bored in Venom. Honestly, and I didn't see the newest Fantastic Four from 2015. That probably would have been it, and because I think that had the same issue where it was just boring. That's what Venom was for me. So that's probably my least favorite.
I feel like Venom would be right there for me, but I just haven't seen it yet. From what you're telling me, from what I've read on the internet,
Plus
especially
disappointment,
yeah,
'cause it's your
especially
favorite
since I
character.
love that character, it's rough. Um, I don't hate Spider-Man 3. Suicide Squad, I really have no desire, but I don't really hate it so
You're just
much.
indifferent on it.
Yeah,
Would it be Iron Man 3? Would that be your least favorite?
honestly, I really think it could be Iron Man 3.
Okay.
I mean, I've seen it maybe once and a couple times, like bumping here and there on scenes on TV. But I remember, and I still have this conversation with you to this day, where whenever I talk about Iron Man 3, I just get this feeling where I'm like, it's just gross. Like it opened with Eiffel 65, and I don't mind that because I'm Blue is a really good techno song. But no, the twist shocked me. The lack of Iron Man in the suit bothered me. Guy Pearce was weird. Like
Yeah.
they were trying to adapt a lot of stuff, but also be serious.
If it was a movie about him, like all the stuff in that movie, the best stuff is him dealing with the aftermath of.
Where he gets basically like PTSD.
That's the best stuff of the movie.
Yeah, I love that.
But then he goes from freaking out
Mm.
to throwing a snowball at a child. So I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, for me, I thought that was hilarious. But I can understand the frustration. I can understand it.
That movie set up so much potential hype and all this other stuff. Iron Patriot was in it, and still to this day, why they even made a joke about it. I think in Avengers 2, where they're like, "What happened to Iron Patriot?" He's like, "I just like silver," or "War Machine's just cooler," or something like that. It made no sense.
He was War Machine in Iron Man 2.
Yeah,
It was rebranded. That was literally like what they said as Iron Patriot. And then Age of Ultron rolls around 2 years later, and it's just sort of like,
War Machine is back.
yeah, they decided, I guess, because the president was almost killed by
Iron
that colored
Patriot,
suit, they
yeah.
said we'll go back to the original. Whatever. So then the last thing is, so not your personal favorite.
Mhm.
What's the best comic book movie?
The best, like on the books that you think like Rotten Tomatoes and everybody claims.
Yeah, so like for me, like I can say, like I know, like for me, Batman '89, Tim Burton, Michael Keaton, Jack Nicholson. That's my favorite comic book movie of all time.
Yeah.
However, The Dark Knight is the best comic book movie of all time. That's how I would say it. It's like, even though I know it's
Yeah,
even
like
though
I love Spider-Man too, but there's obviously
that's a contender.
It's up there.
Dark Knight, even Logan, I think. First Avengers,
The first Avengers is up there.
Winter Soldier. There's so many movies that could be the best,
Mm-hmm.
but I still think Dark Knight is still the best. Is still the best comic book movie.
Yeah, I remember from 2008 that movie came out and then Rises came out in like what 2011 or something. 2012. Those two movies were the world. Like everybody was talking about them. You didn't need to like Batman. You didn't even like to like superhero movies, but people went to go see them. I remember watching The Dark Knight. This was months after it came out. I was really late to see it, and I saw it in September. That movie came out on like July 18th, 2008 or whatever.
Yeah.
And I remember leaving the theater blown away. There was a build-up to Two-Face, the Heath Ledger Joker. It's amazing. Christian Bale was incredible. Yeah, Dark Knight I think is by far probably the best superhero movie.
I think a close second probably would be Avengers, in my opinion. Just what they accomplished with that.
Yeah,
If that movie didn't work, then the movie landscape as we know it right now would be completely different. Everything is a universe because that one movie worked.
Definitely.
So for what it's done for movies in general, and the fact that you had all these comic book characters accurate to who they are on screen together, fighting an iconic villain.
Yeah.
You don't get much better than that.
It's,
The only way you get better with that is a gritty, real Chicago-based crime thriller that just so happens to have a man dressed as a bat.
But that's where I feel like Nolan kind of succeeded in, because you didn't need to like superheroes to love those Dark Knight movies. I mean, Batman Begins is a little.
I'm not a
different,
crazy Batman Begin fan.
Neither am I. It's kind of, it feels like a slow burn a little bit, and it's also just weird to me. But The Dark Knight and Rises especially, they're both really, I think they're really good. Like,
and it looks like the new Joker movie's going in that same route where it's a gritty crime film that just so happens to have the characters, rather than it being a crutch of the characters. Rather, it's just like, oh well, we should just try this with the character, rather than this is what the character is doing. That just so happens he's wearing clown makeup.
Yeah, we also live in a day and age where everybody wants an accurate, like what we were talking about. We want an accurate Wolverine. We want an accurate Joker.
It needs to be identical to the comic.
Yeah, people want all these spot-on performances. I think when you get those weird, subtle changes and kind of adapt your own thing, like Nolan did with Batman, like what Heath Ledger did with Joker, and also Joaquin, he looks like he's doing his own thing.
It's unique. So I think that'll just about do it.
All right.
So thank you, Brandon,
No problem. Thank
for
you,
joining
Zach.
me. See you on the next.
Awesome.
See you on the next one.
See.